My wife cheated, tried to open our marriage, expected me to accept it. I chose revenge, divorce. Reflecting on the past, it's clear my life had always appeared ideal. From the outside, I'd invested decades in building a stable career and nurturing a close-knit family. My wife Betsy and I had been together for nearly 30 years, sharing everything. From our early dreams to unforeseen setbacks, we met in college, when we were both young, ambitious, and open to life's opportunities. Our relationship began, not out of a whirl of passion, but rather a deep respect and compatibility. We were simply two individuals on similar paths, so merging our lives felt natural. We married soon after graduation, and within a few years, we welcomed our daughter, Amy, who became the joyful center of our lives, bringing a purpose and cadence to our days. Our careers grew in parallel. Betsy pursued a path in education, earning respect as a dedicated teacher, while I moved up in the finance division of a company specializing in government contracts. Our schedules were well aligned, offering a balance of security and self-fulfillment that many couples aim for. Over time, our lives settled into a comfortable rhythm. We were a hardworking, well-adjusted family, thriving in a world we thought we understood. Life became a routine of work, home, occasional vacations, and visits from Amy, who eventually married and started her own family. When Amy moved out, Betsy and I had the chance to reconnect as individuals. I imagined we'd rekindle our romance, go on more dates, and make new memories. Yet gradually, almost imperceptibly, something shifted. It was like a small crack forming in an otherwise solid foundation. I began to question if the life we built, one that once felt so secure and satisfying, could withstand this subtle erosion of closeness and understanding that seemed to be creeping into our relationship. I'm Jerry Adams. For most of my life, I genuinely took pride in the life I had created. I'd been married to Betsy for almost 3 decades, and our bond was something we cherished. Now in our mid-50s, we shared a beautiful family, including our only daughter Amy, who had recently married a good man named Jim. Their marriage had entered its 3rd year, and they were expecting their first child. Our days were filled with simple routines, work, and family moments, and I thought we were content. But soon that quiet confidence in my marriage would begin to unravel. Here's a bit of background about Betsy and me. We met in college, and though we weren't initially very close, began dating. We found compatibility and respect for each other's goals, so 18 months later, we were married. And 2 years after that, Amy was born. She was a wonderful, bright daughter, and we felt blessed. Betsy and I both had stable careers. She had taught for 25 years, while I worked in finance, overseeing budgets and compliance for a government-focused company with a small staff of 4. I had spent over 3 decades in the business, building a reputation for diligence. Our story takes a turn in the summer, during Betsy's break from teaching. Once a month, she'd meet up with 3 or 4 of her longtime girlfriends for dinner or a night in at someone's house. These gatherings were typically lighthearted, and sometimes they'd visit a bar, enjoy some music, and maybe dance if the mood struck. I'd never worried. Betsy rarely stayed out late or drank much. It all began about 3 years ago, around the time Betsy and I became empty nesters. We adored our daughter, and I'd hoped this phase might bring us closer, allowing us to rekindle some romance. As we grew older, while our closeness had waned, we continued weekly dinners, sometimes alone, and sometimes with friends. I believed we were content and happy together, or so I thought. One evening, on my way home, after lunch with my friend Harold, who sometimes joined me when our wives got together, I noticed a few cars near our house. I parked around the corner, intending to walk home quietly. Entering through the side door onto our back porch, I heard loud laughter. It sounded like they had enjoyed a few glasses of wine. Smiling, I listened, but then I heard Stephanie, Betsy's closest friend, say, "I love my husband Sam, but he's old, overweight, and can barely stand up sometimes. I just need a little love, so I rely on a good personal stimulator instead," Stephanie continued, "and on the rare occasions he tries, he lasts about a minute." She laughed and added, "So I've started calling him Minute Man." The room erupted in laughter. I felt a pang of sympathy for Sam. He was a good man, and happened to be at our house. Yes, he'd gained some weight, but Stephanie wasn't exactly petite herself, while she was usually friendly. I'd never heard her speak this way about her husband. I was stunned and felt a mix of surprise and empathy for Sam. Quietly, I stayed on the porch, listening to the rest of their conversation. Then Maggie chimed in. Her husband Harold's a different story. He's definitely interested in sex, but she's just not thrilled with his size. Laughing, she added, I can barely feel anything, and after 3 kids, I kind of need something more. The room burst into laughter, and someone asked, how big is it? Maggie replied, maybe around 4 inches. Stephanie laughed harder. No, I mean how hard and big is he? Maggie laughed along. Oh, he's hard. But we might as well call him teeny weeny. The laughter was explosive, filling the room with unrestrained amusement. Stephanie leaned toward Maggie and said, you're welcome to borrow my personal stimulator anytime you want. When it's cold, he'd probably have trouble even finding it. Standing outside, I felt stunned at how openly these women were mocking their husbands' most personal attributes. Harold, a good friend of mine, was being humiliated, and I felt a deep sympathy for him. Amid the laughter, I was grateful my wife had stayed quiet. At least she seemed to have a little respect. Then it was Erica's turn to chime in. I didn't know her husband Ali too well, but he always struck me as a decent guy. She said, I'm going through menopause and really don't have much interest anymore. But Ali's still got a strong drive. Sometimes he just begs to, well, relieve himself in front of me, and I let him. Everyone laughed, and Erica added, with a smirk, I like to tease him and make him feel like an awkward teenager. I call him the blue ball boy. The room roared with laughter again, and then I heard my wife laugh along. I was horrified. Then Stephanie, leading the pack, said, all right, Betsy, what should we call Jerry? What's his nickname? Holding my breath, I waited, tense with anticipation. Betsy giggled and said, how about Boner Boy? The women erupted in laughter. I stood frozen, stunned by her response. In all these years, Betsy had never said anything like this to me. I'd always been respectful, never pushy, and if she was tired, I would simply kiss her goodnight. Had she really meant that? Or was it just a joke? I thought back to times when our closeness had slowed down, especially during her menopause. I'd never heard a complaint from her, so this felt like a slap in the face. My heart was pounding with anger and hurt as I stood outside, trying to process it all. Then Stephanie made a suggestion. We girls are just as bad. Let's go check out that new club, and let some young guys dance with us. If our husbands aren't keeping up, we might as well let those guys have a little fun. The others laughed and nodded, agreeing it sounded like a good idea. Now I found myself wondering if these bar nights were more than just innocent fun. Betsy usually came home sober and calm, just took a shower, and went to bed. I'd even asked her once, did you dance with anyone? She laughed, brushing it off. Nah, I have everything I need at home. But now I questioned everything. Could there be more going on? I couldn't help but feel uneasy. They toasted to their husbands, jokingly labeling them Minuteman, Teeny Weeny, Blue Ball Boy, and Boner Boy. Everyone raised their glasses, laughing. I stood there, feeling sick, wondering if this was a regular thing. Finally, Erica raised her glass again. Look, we're all married, and we're lucky. Our guys are good fathers and providers. Even if they're not perfect, I felt a glimmer of hope that the conversation would end on a good note. But Stephanie sneered, sure, they're good fathers, but sometimes a girl just needs more. Just once with a young guy wouldn't hurt. There was a pause before the laughter resumed. As it got late, Erica finally sighed. Well, we should probably head back to our old boys again. I quietly slipped out the back, heading to my car. Before anyone noticed, anger boiled up inside me, so I drove around, trying to cool down. I parked at a nearby park, replaying the evening's conversation in my mind. I'd always thought of these women as friendly and decent, but hearing them talk this way was a harsh reality check. Sure, I'd gained a little weight, but I stayed active and thought I was in better shape than most of them. None of them, I imagined, would attract younger men. I wrestled with the thought of confronting Betsy. Should I tell her what I'd overheard? As I sat in the car, I realized I still loved her deeply, but the hurt and anger from her disrespect stung. How would she feel if I'd spoken about her that way with other men's wives? By the time I returned home, it was dark, and everyone had left. I entered through the back door, and there was Betsy, cleaning up. She turned and smiled as I walked in. Hi, honey, how was your day? She asked, her voice warm and inviting. I looked at her, almost as if I didn't recognize her anymore. I wanted to confront her, but instead stood there silently. "Honey, are you alright?" she asked, concern in her eyes. "You look upset." "I just had a rough day," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm really tired." She looked puzzled. "I thought you went out with Harold for dinner." "Harold's fine," I replied curtly. "I just had a bad day." My head's pounding. "I think I'll shower, read a bit, and go to bed." She moved closer, arms around me. "Can I help? Anything you need?" she asked, kissing my cheek gently. "No, I'm fine," I muttered, pulling away slightly. "Just really tired." After a quick shower, I lay in bed. Betsy peeked into the room. "Honey, if you need anything, just let me know." "I love you," I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, still feeling the sting of betrayal in my heart. I took a few sleeping pills, eventually drifting into an uneasy sleep. I remember her sliding into bed, beside me, trying to cuddle, but I pretended to be asleep. She sighed, rolled over, and soon fell asleep herself. On Saturday morning, I woke up early, and decided to go for a longer bike ride than usual. Betsy was still sleeping, so I quietly headed out, aiming for an hour ride, instead of my usual 30 minutes. I hoped the extended ride would help me clear my mind and build up some endurance. When I returned, Betsy was already having breakfast. Drenched in sweat, I went straight to the shower. "Jerry," she called out, "I'll make you breakfast. What would you like?" "I'm going shopping with Amy to look for maternity clothes today. No need to worry about me," I answered, from the bathroom. "I'll just grab a bagel and some coffee. Have a good time." By the time I came downstairs, she had already left. I felt a wave of relief. I needed the time alone to process everything I'd overheard the previous night. The anger lingered, and questions continued to swirl in my mind about what really happened. On those nights out, I thought of Dan, one of my younger colleagues, 32 years old, who'd been with the company for 5 years. Betsy had only met him once, so I figured I might be able to ask him discreetly, without drawing any suspicion. Throughout the day, I combed through Betsy's emails, going back about 2 years. She never kept her account locked, so I could check freely. I found nothing unusual. In fact, I could see she hadn't even deleted any old messages, which was somewhat reassuring. Around 5 p.m., I heard her car pull up. She came in, talking animatedly about the day, and all the baby items she and Amy had found. I was glad to hear about it. I loved our daughter, and knew she'd appreciate our support. Betsy was talking non-stop, and I nodded along, half listening, when she casually mentioned that she'd eaten leftovers from last night's get-together. It jolted me back to reality, reigniting the anger I'd been suppressing. I tried to keep my emotions hidden, but she noticed my silence. "Honey, what's bothering you?" she asked, her eyes filled with concern. "Nothing," I replied, stiffly. "Just work stress. I'm hoping it'll get resolved soon." She leaned over and kissed me as I began clearing the table, gathering dishes for the sink. Betsy had always been the better cook, but over the years, I'd taken on the role of cleaning up afterward. As I washed the dishes, she poured herself a glass of wine and sat back down at the table. "Jerry, are you happy?" she asked, softly, her tone gentle but probing. "What does happy even mean?" I responded, a bit evasively. "Yes, I think so." "What about you?" "Of course," she replied, with a slight smile, "but sometimes you seem so distant." "Do you enjoy spending time with your girlfriends?" I asked, sensing an opportunity to address what had been on my mind. Looking surprised, she smiled. "Yes, I do. We have a lot in common. It's nice to relax together and just be ourselves." "When you go out to listen to music, do you ever dance with other men?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She laughed, then gave me a playful look. "Sometimes, if someone asks. But it's harmless." "Jerry, I don't let anyone get too close." "Do you dance with younger men?" I pressed, watching her reaction closely. "Do they ever make you feel nervous?" She laughed again, shaking her head. "Jerry, I think you're jealous. You don't have to worry, darling." I shrugged, trying to keep the mood light. "Just curious. A group of attractive women like you could probably draw quite a bit of attention." She leaned forward, her tone softening. "Jerry, you know I would never let anyone get too close." "What about the others?" I asked. "If any of them ever did something inappropriate, would you tell me?" She gave me a puzzled look. "Jerry, I don't think any of them would cross a line. You know them, they're not like that." After a moment, I suggested, "Why don't we have a picnic and invite them along with their husbands?" She shrugged. "They're all pretty busy." I think, okay, I replied, still watching her reaction. Just a thought. When are you all meeting up again? I inquired. Betsy hesitated, then said, actually, I wanted to talk to you about this. Stephanie has a lake house, and she thought it'd be nice for all of us to go there next weekend. Just the wives, no husbands allowed. I studied her expression. When were you planning on telling me? She looked a bit sheepish. I was going to mention it last night, but you didn't seem up to talking. We're planning to leave Friday morning and come back Monday evening, so right before the 4th of July, I asked, frowning. We usually have a party that day. Are you going to miss it? No, I'll be back for the fireworks, she said, quickly. You'll miss everything else. I pointed out. Amy and Jim usually come over. She seemed to pick up on my disappointment. Jerry, I promise I'll make it up to you. Sometimes we just need a break. You know, I understand, I replied, quietly. Turning away, I headed to my office. Feeling more unsettled than ever, sitting in my office, I felt the familiar churn of anger and betrayal rising inside me. The thought of Betsy going away with her friends, especially after overhearing their conversations, gnawed at me. Betsy rarely went out of town, but after what I'd heard, doubts began to settle in. The next morning, I decided to bring it up again. To see her reaction, honey, I said, casually over breakfast, how about I join you at the lake on Friday evening? I could head back Monday morning, so you'd still get your time with the girls, and we could also spend some time together. Jerry, for God's sake, what's gotten into you? She snapped, sounding irritated. We just need some time together, as friends. It's only a weekend. Fine, enjoy yourself, I replied, feeling a sting from her reaction. But would you be as understanding if I wanted to go on a weekend golf trip with the guys? That's different, she replied, dismissively. Golf is expensive, and I don't like being left alone. Please try to understand. You're acting like a child. All right, I said, voice tense. Enjoy your weekend. That was the last time. I tried to change her mind. Maybe she was right. Maybe friends did need time together, but since that overheard conversation, an uneasy feeling had taken root in my chest, growing each day. That evening, while she was in the shower, I noticed her phone on the counter and decided to check it. Surprisingly, it was locked. She'd never locked it before. I felt a surge of determination and knew I needed a plan. Betsy and I had almost identical phones, so the next morning, I took hers with me to work, leaving mine behind. At the office, I handed her phone to Dan, my IT expert. Can you help me get into this? I asked. Dan looked at me curiously, but got to work. After a few guesses at her passcode, he cracked it, and the phone unlocked. I started scrolling through her messages, looking for anything unusual. Soon enough, I came across a long thread between her and Stephanie. As I read, my stomach twisted. It was clear Stephanie was the ringleader, coordinating the lake trip and arranging special guests for the weekend. Teresa, another friend, was helping her plan. The more I read, the angrier I got. Betsy seemed genuinely excited for the weekend. Only Maggie had reservations. Texting, if the husbands find out, they'll be furious. Stephanie brushed it off, replying, it'll be fun, Maggie. If no one knows, no injury done. Betsy agreed with Stephanie, and Erica chimed in, saying she couldn't wait. I closed the phone, my blood boiling. That evening, I returned home, feeling sickened by what I'd read. Betsy greeted me with a warm smile, but her gaze shifted to the counter. Noticing her phone, did you take my phone with you, by accident? She asked, sounding a little annoyed. Yes, I replied, keeping my expression neutral. I didn't realize until I got to work. She flushed slightly, crossing her arms. Jerry, why did you take my phone? That's my personal space. You shouldn't be snooping. What are you hiding? Betsy, I asked, calmly. Nothing, she snapped, defensively. I just don't like you invading my privacy. That night, I barely slept. The uneasy feeling gnawed at me, so the next day, I decided to call Amy, hoping she might know something. She sounded cheerful, and mentioned that her mom had told her about the trip, and seemed genuinely excited. No, Dad, she said, brightly. Mom's really just looking forward to time with her friends. I think she deserves it. Yeah, you're right, honey, I replied, trying to mask the bitterness in my tone. The following day, Betsy seemed to sense my mood. She came over, wrapping her arms around my neck. Honey, you know I love you, right? She said, softly. It's just a simple girl's getaway. I'll be so glad to see you when I get back. I gave her a weak smile and murmured, I hope so. On Thursday, I decided to check her messages. Once more, Stephanie was still hyping up the weekend, and Teresa was putting together the final plans. Frustrated, I decided to show Dan the texts. His expression changed as he read them. "Jerry," he said, slowly. "Who is this Teresa?" "I don't know," I replied. "Someone who works with Stephanie, apparently." A knowing smile spread across his face. "Jerry, Teresa is my sister." I felt a jolt of surprise. "Your sister?" Dan nodded, looking sympathetic. "She recently organized a bachelorette party for a friend and mentioned that one of her coworkers was planning to hire a pole dancer for a ladies' weekend. I didn't know it was your wife's group." My heart sank as he explained. Now it all became painfully clear. They were planning to hire a pole dancer. I felt an urgent need to know how far this would go. I continued reading Betsy's messages, searching for more clues, and I saw a message from Stephanie. Joking, "Tell Boner Boy after this weekend that he better be nice to you, or you might not need him anymore." My anger flared. I knew I had to confront the situation, so I decided to contact the other husbands involved. I started with Harold, subtly asking if he'd noticed anything odd with Maggie lately. He mentioned she seemed anxious and distant, but he hadn't thought much of it. Without giving too much away, I asked him to meet me at my place on Friday night. Sam and Allie, the other husbands, were initially reluctant, but I eventually convinced them to join us, hinting they might want to know what was going on. I also suggested they try checking their wives' phones or emails, but no one had any success. On Friday morning, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. Betsy was still asleep, so I went to check her bags to see what she'd packed. Everything looked normal, nothing out of the ordinary. I continued scanning through her emails and messages. In one, Stephanie wrote, "I can't wait to see what Teresa set up," but wouldn't reveal the details. Betsy was planning to leave by 8 a.m. for the 2-hour drive. They wanted an early start to relax by the lake. I'd taken the day off without telling her. As I ate breakfast, I finally heard her start the shower. Normally, I leave around 8:30, but today I decided to head out early, leaving a note that read, "Dear Betsy, I hope you have a wonderful time with your friends. I realized you seem unhappy, and I think part of it is that we've grown distant. I'm sorry I haven't made you feel cherished, but I'd rather you stay and help us reconnect. I've been feeling low lately and wanted us to feel close again, like we always did. I've loved you deeply for 28 years, and I want you to be happy. Yours, as always, Jerry." Around 8 a.m., Betsy got a text from Stephanie, saying she'd be there to pick her up shortly. Betsy replied, "Stephanie, something's not right with Jerry. I might not be able to leave until I talk with him." Stephanie responded, "Betsy, come on, he's a big boy, probably just pouting about being left alone for the weekend. Boner Boy will get over it." "Damn it, Stephanie, this isn't funny," Betsy replied. "I think he suspects something. I haven't been treating him well lately, and I need to talk to him." All right, I'll check with Harold. He left early too," Stephanie texted back. The women soon realized they couldn't get hold of their husbands. Stephanie then messaged the group, "Pack up, ladies, we're all going, no excuses. The guys will survive." Over the past week, I'd carefully planned what to do. Now it was time to put it all into action. Maybe our wives thought of us as old, lazy, and oblivious. But I wanted to see if we could save our marriages, or at least stop them from destroying them. Harold and I talked as we waited for Sam and Allie to arrive. When they walked in, both looked tense. "Good," I said. "I asked you here because I have reason to believe our wives are about to betray us this weekend. Are you willing to face this?" I shared the whole story, how I overheard them talking, hacked into Betsy's phone, and uncovered their plans. Sam, Allie, and Harold grew furious. But then silence fell over the room. I laid out my plan. "Tomorrow morning, we'll go to the cabin early, wait for their guests to arrive, and see what unfolds." We agreed to ignore any emails, calls, or messages. "Let's leave them in the dark," I suggested. It would be tough, but it was necessary to make them uneasy. We stayed up late, strategizing, and agreed to regroup. At 9 a.m., I had a restless night, glancing at my phone. As Betsy messaged me about 20 times, her tone shifted from worry to anger, finally calling me a spoiled brat for trying to ruin her weekend. Exhausted, I tried to sleep, eventually dozing off. The next morning, I called my daughter Amy, and she told me her mother was very worried. Amy had reassured her, saying, "Mom, we invited Dad. He mentioned you wanted some time with the girls. Betsy hung up abruptly. I checked our bank account, a habit since I managed our finances, and saw Betsy had withdrawn $500 for the trip. Now I felt certain of what she was planning. I informed the guys and suggested they check their accounts. They discovered their wives had also withdrawn significant amounts. Sam, Allie, and Harold were both embarrassed and outraged at the blatant disrespect. Channel that anger for when we see them, I told them, not wanting anyone to act rashly. Our goal was to reach the cabin by 8 p.m. and stay hidden. Arriving well before the women, Teresa had kept me informed. After I spoke with Dan, she said, Stephanie came to me, asking for a good pole dancer for a girls' night. Teresa had connections, and had shown Stephanie some photos, which got her giddy with excitement. Teresa described the guy as in his late 30s, tall, handsome, and very well built. She added, with a smirk, that his endowment was large, exactly what Stephanie had in mind. Stephanie had even asked if he could do extra things, and Teresa laughed, replying, of course. Stephanie went on, we are all married to a bunch of old farts, and we want to see what a hot young guy can do for 4 women. Hearing this, I was seething. Teresa added that Stephanie assured everyone it would be hot and that they'd all enjoy it. As the men listened, their faces burned with anger. Thankfully, our plan allowed us to intervene. But our futures with our wives now felt painfully uncertain. As we neared the cabin, I texted Teresa to confirm that everything was in place. She called me back after stepping outside. Teresa, I can't thank you enough. You've really opened our eyes. Maybe this will help save a marriage or two. I told her, Jerry, I've been through this before. My ex-husband cheated on me. So when Dan told me what was happening, and I realized I knew Stephanie, I was glad to help. She replied, Stephanie had already told the group that a pole dancer would be joining them. I needed to know how Betsy had reacted, even if I could sense Teresa was hesitant. Finally, she admitted, Jerry, I think your wife is under Stephanie's influence, letting her lead her into things she wouldn't normally do. Teresa, please be straight with me. Did they admit to anything from their bar nights? I asked. It's tough to say, but they did mention a few guys who kissed them and touched them. No one went all the way, she explained. She added, as for Betsy, she mentioned that one guy took her hand and placed it, well, let's say he didn't let go. I felt my anger rising, but kept calm. Teresa continued, they know what's coming. Stephanie told them, if you want a real man's size, just wait until you see what's in store. He's here to entertain us, and maybe we'll get to join in. I have to go now. They think I'm talking to the pole dancer, she said, pausing. Jerry, just remember, your wife isn't the worst here. Stephanie's the bad apple. Thank you, Teresa. Without you, we'd be blind and clueless. Goodbye, I said, ending the call. When I told the other men what Teresa had shared, their faces turned red with anger. We were at the cabin. I stopped the group, planning to speak to the wives first. As the spokesperson, I texted Teresa, we'll be there in 10 minutes, she replied, got it, they're just finishing dinner. At 7:30 p.m., we arrived at the cabin. Nestled on a small hill, overlooking a serene lake, Sam told me it had been in his family for 3 generations. The cabin was rustic, but charming, with a view that stretched for miles. The nearest neighbor was at least half a mile away. We parked on a dirt road, about 200 yards from the cabin, and approached quietly, hearing the women's voices from the back porch, as they gazed over the lake, laughing and drinking wine. Sam pushed open the front door, and we all walked in silently. The women hadn't seen us yet. Sam walked to the back door, opened it, and the laughter abruptly stopped. All 4 of them turned, faces going pale. Hello, Sam said, with a smile, as they stood in shock. Finally, Stephanie managed, Sam, what the hell are you doing here? This is a girls' weekend. Oh, I know, before you leave, why don't you come inside? I want you to meet some friends. He said, gesturing to us. Ladies, let me introduce Blue Ball Boy, Teeny Weeny Boy, Boner Boy, and of course, the infamous Minute Man. Turning to his wife, he asked, isn't that right? Stephanie was speechless, which was incredibly satisfying. I stepped in. Please have a seat, we need to talk. Betsy started to say something, but I stopped her with a firm no. She sank down, tears welling up. Maggie looked ghostly, and Erica seemed to be in shock. We'll speak first, then you'll have your turn, I said, calmly. Turning to Teresa, I said, you must be Teresa. I can't thank you enough. My wife tells me you're her age. How old are you? Fine surprise. Teresa replied, I'm 34. Well, I guess my wife is either blind or lying, isn't that right, dear? I said, with a sarcastic wink. The wives seemed anxious, checking their watches, as the time approached 8 p.m. Likely expecting the pole dancer, Erica finally broke the silence, suggesting, let's all go out to eat. I chuckled, nice try, Erica, but we know a pole dancer is scheduled to be here any minute, you know, the one you all were looking forward to, for a special show. My wife began to cry, and Maggie was already tearing up Harold's patience. Finally snapped, Maggie, how could you humiliate me like that, talking about me in front of your friends? He demanded, I'll buy you a baseball bat, maybe that'll make you happy. Allie followed, addressing Erica, Erica, you've humiliated me. I loved you, but you've betrayed me, making me out to be a pathetic fool. Well, if that's how you see me, then fine. I'm done. Sam turned to Stephanie. Stephanie, you're a disgrace. Your insecurities have poisoned these women, dragging them into this mess. I thought I loved you, but you've made that impossible. After our divorce, you can continue your search for a bigger man on your own, and by the way, if you gain any weight, you'll be a perfect fit for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. He finished, with a cruel smirk, which left her speechless. Finally, I looked at Betsy. Betsy, you've burned every bridge, you lied to me, and intentionally hurt me in the future. Don't worry about seeing me. Disgusting. You'll never get close enough to see that again. I'm sorry I wasted 28 years loving you, thinking you were loyal. Maybe you'll enjoy yourself at the bar, feeling up other men, and in case you're wondering, no, there won't be a pole dancer. We ended that little plan as soon as we knew about it, but since you took out $500 from our account, I hope you can find somewhere else to stay, or go hire someone else for your entertainment. With that, I turned away, leaving the room in stunned silence. The women followed us outside, trying to explain something, but we couldn't hear a word. Before we left, we deflated 2 of the tires on Stephanie's car, since it was a holiday weekend. She wouldn't be able to find anyone to fix them until the next day, at the earliest. Teresa had already taken off. After a bit of conversation with our wives, we all went back home. My wife kept calling and emailing, but everything she sent was nonsense. She apologized, saying it was just a big joke. In one voice message, she said, Jerry, I'm so sorry. It was all a joke. We realized it was offensive. I would never cheat on you. It was just for fun, and I should have told you beforehand. I love you, and no one could ever replace you. I ignored her messages. Instead, I went over to my daughter Amy's house for a picnic. I told her that her mom hired a pole dancer for entertainment, and I just didn't trust her anymore. Amy was shocked and disappointed. When her mom called her later, she asked, did you enjoy the pole dancer? Her mother told her it was a joke, and not to mention it again. Our wives made it back home on July 4th. By that time, I'd already met up with Amy and Jim. Betsy eventually joined us. Jerry, Amy, and Jim, I'm truly sorry for what happened. I love you all very much, and I'll do whatever it takes to make things right, Betsy said. Amy replied, I'm disappointed. Mom, I can't believe you think this is okay. I haven't seen a pole dancer since college. Really, Jim said. Guess there's more to learn about my wife. Jim, that was before I met you, Amy responded, and we were just college girls. Not grown women, like Mom. Betsy started crying, and went home. When I returned, after the fireworks, she was already asleep, which was a relief. I had moved my things into Amy's old room, so there was no need for a conversation. The next morning, I left for work early, avoiding any interaction with her entirely. At the office, Dan looked up as I came in. How did things go? He asked. It was rough, I said, but I'm glad we managed to prevent things from spiraling even further. He paused, studying me. Do you think there's a chance to save your marriage? I hope so, I admitted. I still care about her, despite everything that's happened, but I honestly don't know. Betsy messaged me, asking what time I'd be home, and said she was making dinner. We really need to talk, she added. I told her I'd be home at my usual time. When I walked in, the house smelled wonderful. She greeted me and said, I missed you, and I'm sorry. Can we talk after dinner? Sure, I agreed. Dinner was quiet, though the food was delicious. Afterward, Betsy asked if we could move to the living room, where she brought out dessert and wine. I thought, she's really pulling out all the stops here. Jerry, I'm sorry about the weekend, she began. None of us intended for anything to happen. With a pole dancer, I didn't even know about it until we got there. When did you find out, Betsy? I asked. Why didn't you try to stop Stephanie? Or at least tell her it was inappropriate? She hesitated. I thought about it, but it was her cabin, and she planned everything. We just went along with it. And what about those bar nights? How many men have you flirted with, and how many have flirted with you? I pressed. None, she insisted. I've never done anything inappropriate. One of your friends told me, some guy grabbed your hand. And you commented on how big he was, I replied. Looking at her carefully, that's not true, she protested. Maybe he brushed my hand, but I didn't notice, and I certainly didn't encourage it. She sighed. I've had a lot of time to reflect these past 2 weeks, and honestly, I'm unhappy. When I needed you, you didn't seem to care. The way you talk about us is hurtful, like we're strangers, not husband and wife. Where's all this coming from? I asked, feeling blindsided. Honey, it's just girl talk, she said, trying to explain. We exaggerate sometimes, especially when we're drinking and being silly. And how would you feel if the men joked about you like that? I shot back. If they called you names, you'd be furious. It's disrespectful. I'm so sorry, Jerry, it was wrong, and we shouldn't have done it. I regret even planning a girls' weekend like that, she said. I don't know why Stephanie suggested it. Oh, I do, I replied. She doesn't respect her husband, and she convinced you all to disrespect yours too. Jerry, that's not true. I love you more than anyone. I promise I'll make things right. You mean everything to me, she pleaded. We'll see. For now, I'm sleeping in Amy's old room. If you want my trust back, you'll have to earn it, and I think you should see a counselor. Meanwhile, I'll keep my distance. Honey, I love you, and you're not foolish. I made a mistake, and took you for granted. But I don't think I need counseling, she replied, attempting to avoid the idea. Maybe if Stephanie hadn't been such an influence, none of this would have happened. I responded, firmly. That's exactly why I think counseling is necessary. She looked taken aback, but eventually nodded. I'll do whatever you want, she said, though I could sense her hesitation. If it helps, I'll go with you, I offered, but you need to find someone you're comfortable talking to. After that incident, all of us husbands started to realize one thing. The women had it right. We needed to get in better shape, so we committed to hitting the gym and focusing on ourselves. I felt stronger and healthier, and my daughter even mentioned that I was looking more handsome. At my age, 56, I thought, does that even matter? In the end, 2 of the couples were actively in counseling, and 1 marriage was nearly over. Stephanie and Sam were headed for divorce. Stephanie moved to her sister's place, out of state. Sam was a bit down about it, but he soon started dating again, and honestly, no one missed Stephanie. Erica and Allie, on the other hand, were making progress in counseling. They were working hard to rebuild their relationship. Erica had become more attentive, while Allie was learning to be more assertive, and wasn't willing to be seen as a pushover. I think they have a good shot at making it. Maggie and Harold seemed to be in a strong place too. Maggie had shown genuine remorse from the beginning, openly expressing how much she cared for her husband. She even began to brag a bit, saying Harold was her hottest lover since Casanova, which gave Harold a new boost of confidence. As for Betsy and me, we continued to live under the same roof, and she kept going to counseling. Technically, we were still married, but I discovered a new joy in life. My beautiful granddaughter, Brittany. Sometimes Betsy seemed truly regretful, but I wasn't entirely sure. Amy, our daughter, encouraged me to give Betsy another chance, and gradually, Betsy and I were finding some closeness again. The sex was okay, but I still wanted that spark back. She says she genuinely needs me and loves me, but only time will tell. In the meantime, I'm feeling better about myself, and a few women at the gym have shown some interest, especially when they've heard bits of my story. For now, I'm keeping my options open and seeing where life leads me. Reflecting on the events that have unfolded, I can't help but feel a profound mixture of sadness, disappointment, and resilience. The past few months have tested the foundations of my marriage in ways I never anticipated. It's been a long journey, one that forced me to confront the imperfections in our relationship, the hidden resentments, and the subtle erosions of closeness that I'd brushed aside for far too long. Betsy and I had built a life together, and what I thought was mutual respect and understanding. We had shared decades of memories, raised a wonderful daughter, and faced life's ups and downs, hand in hand. but seeing that bond shaken to its core. By her actions and the cavalier attitude she displayed with her friends, has left scars that may never fully heal. Betrayal isn't just about actions, it's about trust and respect. The invisible threads that hold a relationship together. As I navigated the aftermath, I realized that I had neglected parts of myself. I had taken comfort in the routine, in the predictable patterns of our life, but maybe that predictability had dulled something essential in our relationship, and perhaps even within myself. For years, I poured my energy into work and family, rarely reflecting on my own happiness or needs. In a strange way, this crisis forced me to reconnect with myself, to ask questions I hadn't considered in years. What do I want from my life? How do I want to be loved? The nights were the hardest. Lying alone in Amy's old room, I was haunted by memories of better times. Times when Betsy and I would stay up late, talking about our dreams, laughing over shared memories. I kept asking myself if those moments were real, or if they were merely illusions of a bond that was never as strong as I believed. Betrayal has a way of making you doubt everything, of making you question every choice, every word, every moment of vulnerability shared. My daughter Amy has been a pillar through all of this. Her support, her kindness, and her unwavering belief in the strength of family kept me grounded, yet even she was deeply disappointed in her mother. It's heartbreaking to see your child caught in the crossfire of marital discord, to witness her grappling with the idea that her parents are no longer the ideal she once held in her mind. And as I watch her raise her own family, I feel an urgent need to model strength and resilience, to show her that love and forgiveness are possible, even in the face of deep hurt. Counseling has been a part of this journey. Betsy agreed to seek help, to confront her own actions and the reasons behind them. At first, I attended sessions alongside her, hoping to bridge the gap that had grown between us. But over time, I realized that I needed space to heal independently, to rebuild my sense of self before I could fully engage in rebuilding our relationship. It's a process, a gradual unfolding of emotions that can't be rushed or forced. The camaraderie with the other husbands has been an unexpected solace. Knowing that they too face similar betrayals has lessened my sense of isolation. Together, we've reclaimed parts of ourselves, rediscovering the importance of self-worth and self-care. Each of us has grown in our own way, finding a new rhythm, a new strength, and maybe even a newfound appreciation for life beyond marriage. As for Betsy and me, we're in a tentative place. We still share a home, still interact daily, but the wounds are fresh, and trust is a fragile thing. She says she loves me, that she regrets everything, but words alone won't mend the brokenness inside me. Rebuilding will take time, patience, and more honesty than we've ever shared before. Whether we can truly come back from this, only time will tell. In the meantime, I'm focusing on my granddaughter, Brittany. She's light in my life, a reminder of the pure, unconditional love that still exists. Watching her grow, seeing the world through her innocent eyes, helps me find hope amid the turmoil. She's a reminder that life goes on, that there is joy and beauty, even in the midst of pain. Every day, I wake up with a choice to hold on to bitterness or to move forward, however slowly, however painfully. Right now, I'm choosing to move forward, not just for myself, but for the possibility of healing, for the potential to find peace, in whatever form it takes. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm determined to face it with strength, self-respect, and an open heart. Moving forward hasn't been easy, but every day brings a small shift in perspective. I'm realizing that the pain of betrayal doesn't just dissipate, it transforms. It shapes how you see yourself, your partner, and even the world around you. At first, I was overwhelmed by anger and confusion. I couldn't fathom how someone I loved so deeply could trivialize our bond, turning our shared life into fodder for casual jokes. But now that anger is cooling into something else, perhaps a quieter resolve to rebuild, not just my marriage, but my sense of self. The counseling sessions, though difficult, have been revealing. Sitting there, forced to confront emotions that had been simmering under the surface, I began to see patterns. Betsy had been feeling neglected, distant, perhaps even resentful, in ways she'd never shared with me. I realized I'd done the same, pushing down frustrations, choosing silence over confrontation. Perhaps both of us had unwittingly contributed to the erosion of our connection, slipping into routines that left little room for genuine emotional closeness. In this there's a strange relief. It wasn't just her actions that broke us, it was our mutual neglect. During one of our sessions, Betsy spoke through tears, admitting she didn't know why she let herself be swept up in those conversations. Why she entertained the idea of hiring someone to spice things up. She said she felt trapped between wanting to feel young again and fearing that our life had lost its spark. Hearing her say that hurt, but it also illuminated something I'd missed. We were both clinging to memories of the people we used to be, not fully embracing the people we've become. As hard as it is, I'm learning to see her, not just as my wife, but as someone with her own fears, insecurities, and struggles. My own journey towards self-discovery has been grounding. I've reconnected with friends, re-engaged in hobbies I'd set aside, and even taken up new challenges. At the gym, it's as if I'm rediscovering parts of myself that had been dormant. Sometimes, I find myself smiling at the smallest things: a brisk morning walk, a conversation with Amy, a quiet moment with Brittany. These moments remind me that happiness isn't always grand or sweeping. Often it's found in the simplicity of everyday life. The gym, in particular, has become a sanctuary. I never imagined that at this age, I'd be lifting weights and running on a treadmill, surrounded by people half my age, but each workout feels like a small victory, a step toward reclaiming my sense of strength and vitality. It's not just about looking better. It's about feeling better, about proving to myself that I'm capable of change, even after decades of routine. Betsy has noticed the changes in me, and it's shifted the dynamic between us. She's more attentive now, more thoughtful in her words and actions. There's a gentleness to our interactions that wasn't there before, almost as if we're relearning how to be together. The closeness isn't back yet, not fully, but there are moments when I see a flicker of what we used to share, a laugh over a shared memory, a quiet touch as she passes by. It's not much, but it's something, a seed of hope that perhaps we can rebuild from the ashes. Still, the trust isn't fully there. Every now and then, doubts creep in. I wonder if she's being genuine, if the remorse she expresses is deep enough to sustain the changes we both need to make. There are times when I feel the urge to check her phone, to verify that her commitment is real, but then I stop myself. If I'm to heal, I need to let go of that urge to control, to police her actions. Healing, I realize, requires faith, a faith in myself, in my ability to handle whatever comes, even if that means enduring more hurt. Our conversations have also deepened, moving beyond the superficial exchanges we once settled for. We're discussing things we'd avoided for years, our fears about aging, our disappointments, our hopes for the future. It's uncomfortable, sometimes even painful. But I feel that it's a necessary discomfort. We're slowly dismantling the walls we built, trying to understand each other in a way we hadn't since our early years together. In these conversations, there's a tentative hope, a shared vulnerability that feels raw but real. Perhaps most surprisingly, I found myself thinking of forgiveness, not just as a gift to Betsy, but as a liberation for myself. Carrying resentment feels like a weight, a chain that binds me to this painful chapter. By forgiving her, I'm giving myself permission to move forward, to create a future that isn't defined by betrayal, but by growth, by resilience. Forgiveness, I'm learning, isn't about excusing the hurt, but about releasing its hold on me. There are days when I falter, when the old anger resurfaces, when I question everything, but those moments are growing fewer. Each day, I'm learning to replace anger with compassion, judgment with understanding, and fear with hope. This journey isn't about erasing the past, it's about building a future that honors the lessons we've learned. It's about finding a new way to love, one that embraces imperfection, that acknowledges the scars we both carry. As I sit here reflecting on all that's happened, I feel a strange sense of gratitude. This experience, painful as it was, has brought me closer to myself, to my values, to my purpose. It's reminded me of the resilience I possess, of the love I still have to give, both to myself and to others. And as for Betsy, only time will reveal whether our marriage can withstand this trial. But whatever happens, I know that I'll emerge from this stronger, wiser, and more attuned to the things that truly matter.